Vice President Harris does secure the nomination, she and former President Trump would be on the ballot in less than 4 months. WWL Louisiana political analyst and Gambit columnist Clancy DuBos is joining us now to talk about how the president's decision could impact the election. Good evening, Clancy. So glad to have you here with us. Now, my first question is, has a presumptive nominee ever quit this late in the campaign?
Not this late. The last one that I could think of was President Lyndon Johnson, and he quit in time for the primaries to take their course in 1968. And that was a very tumultuous primary season. We saw, very sadly, the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy. It was a very difficult, very polarizing and polarized time in American history, and it was during my lifetime. So, but that was, more than a year before the election. So it's or about a year before the election. So this is definitely by far the latest that any presumptive nominee in either party has withdrawn.
Well, late in the game, we're only a few months away from the election. Now, do you expect any obstacles for Harris in securing this nomination?
I don't think so. She's the obvious choice. She's the most qualified choice among Democrats. She's the sitting vice president. She's been in the room. I think what's going to be the big question now is who will she choose as her running mate? She's not taking it for granted, by the way. She's working the phones, talking to delegates and donors, the two Ds, the two most important Ds right now, other than Democrat, for Kamala Harris. The delegates at the convention, and state by state, they are trying to get states committed to support her. In fact, I spoke about an hour or so ago, 2 hours ago, with City Council President Helena Moreno in New Orleans, who, I don't know if people remember, but 4 years ago, she was the co-chair in Louisiana of Kamala Harris's campaign during the primary season for Louisiana. She and Ted James, who's now running for mayor of Baton Rouge. So she has a lot of influence, or certainly a lot of phone numbers in her directory with the Kamala Harris campaign. And she told me she has already been tasked by the Harris campaign and the vice president's political advisors to deliver Louisiana for Harris, and that's what she's been working on. And this is happening in all 50 states right now. But I don't think it's going to be a big challenge. I don't see anybody rising up to try to take her on, because several of the ones who might challenge her would really like to be vice president. So,
right. Well, who would be the most beneficial for her then of those people who are vying to be vice president?
Well, that is the big parlor game going on in Democratic circles right now. I think no matter what, I think she's going to pick, because she really needs to pick a governor. That's kind of been the magic formula in not all recent successful campaigns, but going back to Ronald Reagan's day. He was a transformational president in some ways. Governors know what it takes to run a government, whether it's a big government like California or a relatively small one like Arkansas for Bill Clinton. And what happens is if the nominee is a governor, that person often picks somebody who's a senator or someone who's an inside the beltway person, so that the ticket has some balance. It used to be balancing by state or by region. I think now it's balancing by resume. So Kamala Harris has been U.S. Senator and Vice President. She has never run a government per se, although as Vice President, she's been in on a lot of big decisions. I think it's going to be important for her to pick somebody who can say, she can say, and that person can say, we know what it's like to run things. And so I think she'll pick one of the governors, maybe Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania, which is a battleground state, or there's talk of Andy Beshear in Kentucky.
From Kentucky, right.
Which is not a battleground state, but he's young and exciting, and people, he might jazz things up a little bit. Also, Roy Cooper in North Carolina, all Democratic governors.
But quickly, one big question, though, that people have, what do you think that Harris has a better chance of winning than Biden did?
The polls might not have shown that before now, but I think in the next week or two, you're going to see polls show that she is actually going to do better against Donald Trump than Joe Biden was doing, because he was slipping. He had bumped back up in recent weeks, but the campaign is really still taking shape, because now we know who the Democratic presumptive nominee is now. I'm calling her the nominee parent. But I think a lot of people are really anxious to see who she picks as her vice president, because that's a very strategic big pick for any presidential nominee.
Clancy, thank you so much for being with us.